Good morning. How you doing? It's 10:31 here in Salford in Greater Manchester. Let me tell Jazz to go away there. Go away, Jazz. And I'm sitting in a lovely little conservatory, and the weather is improving. It's been abysmal over the last couple of days, but it looks like it's settling down, and it might turn out a little bit better later on this bank holiday. I hope you're having a good weekend, and you're having a good bank holiday Monday so far, bright and early, isn't it? I just decided to have a chat. I read an article in the Independent newspaper this morning, and it pissed me off no end. And I decided that I might make a little video just to have a chat about it and to discuss it. I think the live chat is up and running. I hope it is anyway. And you can see people on the right-hand side of your screen not tweeting, but posting messages as they go along. And if you want, you can have a chat with them and join in and argue with them or whatever. All right. Okay. So it is Monday, the 27th of May, then 2019. It's supposed to be off today. But as I said, I read this article in the Independent, which I'll come to in a moment, which really cheesed me off this morning. It's an article about the independent candidate for the election here in the Northwest, Tommy Robinson, or Stephen Yaxley Lennon. And as I said, I'll get into that in a minute. But the counting of the votes here in the UK has been going on overnight. The UK voted on Thursday, but as I mentioned yesterday on the Richie Allen Sunday View show, on the Sunday View program, they waited to count the votes here. They had to wait until the polls had closed across Europe. So I've got one or two little bullet points here for you in terms of the results. The Nigel Farage's newly put together Brexit party, which has been a party for only about 6 weeks, was, I suppose you could say, the big winner in the election over the last few days, as the count has taken place overnight. The Lib Dems came second here in the UK, and the Conservative and Labour Party, the Tories and Labour, suffered pretty heavy defeats. I think none of that is really any great surprise. It was obvious because the Brexit Party, with a clear message and a clear mission statement, we want to leave the European Union, full stop. The Lib Dems, the Liberal Democrats, message pretty straightforward. We want to stay in the European Union at any cost. And the politicos are saying this morning that the defeat suffered by Labour and the Tories is down to the fact that there's no clear message coming from those parties on the referendum result, right? So Farage has been doing the rounds of the talk shows this morning, not the talk shows, the breakfast shows and the breakfast radio shows. And he's been saying that in an election, he reckons that the Brexit Party would do as well, if not quite as well, they would do pretty well in a general election if the UK doesn't leave the European Union by the 31st of October. If you've been following this, you'll know we should have left on March 29th. It's been argued by people, by recent guests on the Richie Allen radio show, that we have legally left the European Union and we should be out of it, and that's been challenged by the English Democrats Party. Spoke to one of their representatives on the programme last week. But anyway, Farage is saying if we're not out by the 31st of October, we are ready to contest a general election. So what time is it now? It's 25 minutes to 11. As it stands, 64 MEPs have been declared here out of 73, I think. Farage's party is 128, the Lib Dems 15, Labour 10, the Greens 7, the Tories 3, and Plaid Cymru 1. So there you are. I've made a couple of points here I want to get into. So Farage has been talking about the two-party system is broken now. It's a brand new day in British politics. The people are fed up of the self-serving political elite and all the rest of it. Stuff that Farage has been saying forever and a day. What is interesting is if you group the results by pro-Brexit versus anti-Brexit parties, in that sense, not an awful lot has changed, really. Yes, the Brexit Party has won more seats than everybody else. It's had a great day, no doubt about that. But by and large, if you group all the results and judge them by pro-Brexit votes against anti-Brexit votes, you'll see that anti-Brexit parties got 40.4% of the vote, pro-Brexit parties 34.9% of the vote, and Labour and the Tories destroyed 14.1% for Labour and 9.1% for the Conservative Party. So it's a big turnout then. Second biggest turnout in this country for EU parliamentary elections. Traditionally, people don't turn out to vote for the EU parliamentary elections. Traditionally, people don't give a shite. That's the way it is. But there's been obviously a huge increase in the interest and the willingness to participate in this process. Again, because of obviously this Brexit debacle. But when you look at the Liberal Democrats and the Greens doing well, in terms of the increase in interest and the increase in voter turnout, you can look at the Greens and you've got to say the climate change protests, Greta Thunberg, and the Extinction Rebellion nonsense that we witnessed here over the last few weeks, well, in London, not so much up here in Manchester, but in London. Those votes for the Greens are a lot to do with climate fears as much as they are to do with the Green Party's stated position, which is, like the Liberal Democrats, that they want to stay in the European Union. So pro-Brexit parties, 34.9%, anti-Brexit parties, just over 40%, 40.4%. So in line with recent polling. So you could say really that this EU parliamentary election was basically just one big giant kind of opinion poll exercise. You could say that, right? Watch the Green Party thing, because I understand that the Green Party have increased their share of the vote in Ireland. The Irish this weekend or on Friday were not only voting for EU parliamentary candidates, but they were also voting in their local elections. We had local elections a couple of weeks ago here in the UK, and I think the Greens have increased their votes. Now, their vote share. Traditionally, in recent years, the Green Party has been a bit of a nonsense. It's done very badly nationally. It's had intermittent success locally at local council elections, but by and large, the Greens have been in steady decline for many, many years. But with the emergence of Greta Thunberg and the Extinction Rebellion group capturing the imagination of the public with their scare stories about how we're all going to be under 15 feet of water in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, they've kind of dragged out the younger vote, which I think is key to not only that issue, that climate issue, but also to the issue of staying in the European Union. Electing MEPs and sending them to Brussels is a monumental waste of time. Now, I'm not going to bore the absolute bejesus out of you this bank holiday Monday morning, telling you things that I've told you a million times. But briefly, we vote in across Europe just over 750 members of the European Parliament. Why do we do that? Well, it's part of a big charade. It's a ruse. It's smoke and mirrors to preserve the illusion of democracy in the European Union, which, as I've said 1,000 times before, and I've made a couple of bullet points here. I don't want to mess this up. Don't want to give you false information. MEPs in Brussels have no power whatsoever. They don't have the power to propose new laws or new legislation. Yes, while they can vote on legislation that is proposed by the Commission and the EU Council, their amendments, their proposed amendments, are worthless if the Commission decides to press on and do what it wants to do anyway. So again, the idea that members of the European Parliament, 751 of them, can affect what happens at the EU Council and the commissioners, the Commission, again, it's just a ruse. It's just bullshit. And that's why I said a couple of minutes ago this EU parliamentary election in the UK basically serves as little more than just a joint opinion poll. And as an opinion poll, I suppose, for commentators and journalists like me, it's interesting up to a point. As I said, it shows that people are pissed off, so they went out and voted for Farage and his candidates. Anne Widdecombe, old friend of mine, got in. And David Bull, the television doctor who was on the Richie Allen Show a couple of weeks ago, he got in as well. And good luck to them, but it's really just a joint opinion poll. The power in the European Union lies in the Council of Ministers and the Commission. MEPs are window dressers. It's to make you think that when you go and vote for these people, that they can affect change within the European Union. They can't. They can't. And as I said to you before, when something has been passed as EU law, the EU Parliament, the 751 parliamentarians, have no ability whatsoever to propose a change to that law. So you have a new law, it's come in, the 751, they might as well be waxwork dummies. There's nothing they can do. The power is with the Commission. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Okay? Right. That's that. I'm going to have a look and see if there are any comments. There might be a few comments. There's loads of comments. Right. I can't scroll back to them. Let me just say good morning to all of you who are commenting and have joined the live stream. I gave little or no warning about this live stream, but I see we've got nearly 300 viewers as it stands. So that's nice. Thanks for joining me and listening to my bullshit. You could be listening to somebody else's bullshit, but you're listening to mine anyway. Good morning to Joe Bod. That would be Joe Boddington. How you doing, Joe, the musician? Nice to know you're online this morning. Hope you're well, Joe. Hi to Bill, to Tabby Callahan, to Martin in Spain, to Gary Lennon. And there's lots more comments, to Deborah as well. Hi to Jonathan Rainey. Now let me talk for a minute, if you don't mind, about the Michael Nixon says, I thought Anne Widdecombe was on ice. Anne is back in politics. Hi to Kim Erswell, to Dave Kohler, to Paul Galvin. Paul says, give a shout out to my wife, Helen in Cork. Helen, Diagwit, good morning. Conas the tea. Hope you're well, Helen in Cork, in County Cork. Hi to Graham Booze, who, of course, trigger warning presenter, who says, I'm watching you whilst I poo. He says, you're making it go smoothly. Well, I'm never asking Graham Booth if I can use his phone or his tablet. Good morning, Graham. So Stephen Yaxley Lennon then, or Tommy Robinson. Tommy came up to the northwest from Luton with his London accent and threw his hat into the ring as he was, hi to Kazi Barkley. Good morning, Kazi, who's in Glasgow and says, please say hi to my son, Anthony. Good morning, Anthony. Thanks for checking out this live stream. And hi to Lord Branstey. I love you too, mate. Thanks for checking me out. This is hilarious. There is nothing less professional than this live stream. You watch Graham Booth and Hayden Hewitt. They've got graphics all over the screen. They've got stuff going on. I've got nothing here. I'm in a conservatory and I'm getting blinded by the light as I channel my Bruce Springsteen. Hi to Peter McTwo-Wheels as well. Look, I'm not saying hi to people. I have things to say. I'll be here all day. Hi to Cocabelle. Good morning. Now, Tommy. So he came up to the northwest and he went out canvassing. To be fair to him, he covered quite a lot of ground, it would appear, in the northwest over the last few weeks. The mainstream media got great play out of scuffles, minor scuffles between his supporters and other people, Antifa, I don't know. The media found it very funny that people were throwing milkshakes at him and all the rest of it. And he was, he was all over the place, wasn't he, for the few weeks of the campaign. Now, I want to make it clear for anybody who's tuning into this live stream for the first time, I don't like Tommy Robinson. I don't like any politician, to be honest with you. I suppose I'm in trouble now that Anne Widdecombe is back in politics. I've always liked Anne. I've had a soft spot for Anne going back many, many years, since I got to know her many years ago. I've known Anne since my radio days in Ireland. conviction politician, a very good constituency politician, a decent woman. And whether you agree or disagree with her, look, I couldn't be any further from a Tory. I'm as far from a Tory as you could possibly get. But I like people. I don't like parties. I like people. So Anne's back in politics. So I suppose now I've got to be careful about inviting Anne on again in the future. Have to give her some stick. So I don't like Tommy. And for me, it's always been that unsavoury aspect of him, the football violence, the convictions for violence. I know people say, look, when somebody has served their sentence and done their time, they're entitled to re-enter society. I've never had any issue with any of that. Jazzy, will you stop rolling around? I can hear you clicking there. Your paws are clicking. Yeah, I'm being distracted by the dog. So, well, yeah, of course, when somebody serves their sentence, they are entitled to re-enter society. And people should accept that they've done their time, served their debt to society, as it were, and give them a break. And that's okay. I have absolutely no problem with that. For some reason, when it comes to politics, you don't get that get out of jail card in politics. In politics, you're always, I don't want to say you're condemned or you're doomed, but it's always going to follow you around. You know, Tommy tried to rebrand himself as a more moderate, conservative campaigner, moved away from the English Defence League and said, I don't hate Muslims, but I do have a big problem with radical Islam. Whereas for years before that, Tommy was seen on camera, he was seen in public saying things that were way beyond just merely being worried about the influence of Islam in the UK. Racist stuff, let's be honest about it. Stuff that was genuine racism. I've said it before. The footage is all there. There is a remarkable bit of footage of Tommy less than 3 years ago at a hustings somewhere in London or a rally, and a guy is handing Tommy the microphone. And as the guy is handing Tommy the microphone, this clip was on Twitter for a long time before it was removed. The guy says, let's welcome Tommy Robinson. And as he's handing him the microphone, he says, send all the niggers, he says, the N-word, send them all home. And Tommy yucks it up. Big laugh, big joke. Instead of saying to him, what the fuck was that, man? Why would you say something like that? So I don't like Tommy. No time for him. I've no time for people like him on the far left or on the far right or anywhere else for that matter. But he's in the Independent newspaper today. He's in every newspaper because John Parsons says Tommy plays his role in the divide and conquer agenda. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Fiona says he is not racist. He is, Fiona. He is. And that's okay. It's okay for people to be racist. People can be racist, so long as people are not inciting violence against others. And I don't think these days this guy incites. I don't think he does that, to be fair to him. But he is a bigot, and that's the end of it. So let me read the Independent. So Tommy rocked up to the Count Centre in central Manchester last night. And obviously it wasn't going well for him. So the newspapers in the UK this morning are running these stories about how Tommy's been laughed at because he failed to win his EU seat and he lost his £5,000 deposit. Now, I gave a title to this live stream. I can't remember the title I gave to it, but it was something like Tommy Robinson losing in the EU election is no laughing matter, and let me explain. It is no laughing matter. It is no laughing matter. Let me read this. Tommy Robinson was met with mocking laughter after he failed to win election last night as an independent MEP candidate. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, won just 38,908 votes, 2.2%, in his attempt to win a seat in the European Parliament, and he finished in 8th place. Nearly 40,000 votes. That's not as bad as they're painting it in the mainstream media here in England today. That's not bad, that. And that'll become clearer as I go down the article. The former leader of the English Defence League was one of a group of MEP candidates who had a milkshake thrown over and blah, blah, blah during the campaign, along with Farage and the UKIP candidate Carl Benjamin. Now, UKIP were obliterated in this EU parliamentary election last night. That's something, again, you didn't have to be Nostradamus to predict that. It was obviously going to happen as UKIP embraced people like Tommy and this guy, Carl Benjamin, who I know very little about, other than he's a YouTube sensation going by Sargon of Akkad, and he talks a lot about free speech. And I don't believe that Carl Benjamin was threatening Jess Phillips with rape. I don't believe that at all. I'd say Carl Benjamin is a bit of an agent, really. I understand he's a gamer. I'm not going to bore you. I've said this before. He wasn't threatening Jess Phillips. Jess Phillips is an arsehole, by the way. He wasn't threatening her with rape at all. His whole shtick is about what you can't say, what you can't say, why you can't say it. Maybe we should have a debate about that. I've got no problem with this guy. Anyway. But I wouldn't be making jokes about rape around women. So maybe I self-censor. Maybe I'm proving Carl Benjamin's point. Maybe, I don't know. But back to Tommy then. He got nearly 40,000 votes, 2.2%, and he finished in 8th place out of 11. And the media's mocking him today and having a good laugh at him, saying he's a bit of a fucking Egypt, basically. And ha, ha, ha. Hope Not Hate, another ridiculous organisation, are saying this is brilliant. It shows that the English people won't tolerate hate figures. This is the new speak that George Orwell was talking about. Fucking hate figures. What does that even mean? So anyway, Tommy was quoted as he left the Count Centre. And I'm going to agree with Tommy Robinson. He said, Trump won his campaign on social media. He said, Brexit was won on social media. I'm banned from social media. Talking about government interference with social media companies and how it contributed to his defeat in this election. So he went on to say to Tommy, he said, so my ability to fight a fair campaign is gone. Orchestrated and organised by the government, I feel I've been fighting with my hands tied behind my back. Excuse me. And the Independent writes, Robinson was banned from Facebook and Instagram for repeatedly breaking the company's hate speech policies and permanently banned from Twitter for breaking rules governing hateful conduct. So Tommy was kicked off Facebook and Instagram and permanently banned for Twitter, not for breaking the law of the land. That would be the law of the UK here in this country. He didn't break any laws here. He was banned from these, and every time he was banned, if you've listened to my radio show long enough, you'll know that while you disagree with me on a lot of things, I know that. That's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. You'll know that I've never been a fucking hypocrite. Never in a million years. Dislike him though I do, and people like him, because they're puppets. They're used by a much deeper and far more sinister entity to, as some of the commentators have been saying here on the live chat, to divide and conquer. But dislike him as I might, at every step of the way, when he was told that PayPal were kicking him out, I said it was a disgrace. When Facebook banned him, I said it was a disgrace. And when Instagram and Twitter banned him, I said it was a disgrace. I'll fight even harder for the right of him to be heard than I will for somebody whom I agree with. That's the Voltaire philosophy. Right, I'm not virtue signaling here now. I've always done that. I want to talk to these people on my radio programs. I don't want them banned. So Tommy said, I never had a chance because I was banned from social media. And Tommy is 100% right. He never had a chance. And now he's got to forfeit the £5,000 deposit he paid. Now, I'm pretty sure that he has a lot of support, and I'm pretty sure that he's well looked after. Look, don't be screaming at me. We know about the Zionist angle. We know that Tommy's got a lot of support in Israel. You know what I think about Israel and Zionism. I don't have to get into it here. But again, talking about somebody whom I don't support, I can't stand his associations. It's laughable to me that he is supported by Israel and business groups in Israel, and that his supporters can't see that, but that's fine. Leave that to one side. He's right, isn't he? He had no chance. And that brings you then to a really, really important question. First of all, we don't have any democracy. Forget it. There isn't. This is a constitutional monarchy. And I've explained 1,000 times on my radio show what that really means. The royal families of Europe and this royal family here and the financial institutions and the financial families of the world created constitutional monarchies in Europe to give you the illusion of democracy. That when you go and vote for Jess Phillips in Birmingham Yardley, or when you go and vote for Jeremy Corbyn in Islington, you're taking control of your situation. You have democracy. No, you fucking don't have democracy. There's no such thing. Right, so leave that there. Park that to one side. You used to have the illusion of democracy. Now, it's apparent to people who maybe never before understood that democracy is a pipe dream, that democracy is fake news, that democracy is it's a misnomer. It's a word that shouldn't be in the English language because we don't have any. And this is a perfect example of it. You've now got global corporations which are bigger than anything that you and I ever imagined a corporation could ever be. You know, we've had major corporations over the years, IBM, we've had Microsoft, we've had General Electric, we've had Time Warner, massive corporations. Facebook and Google and Twitter make General Electric and Time Warner and these other corporations that we thought were behemoths. Facebook, Twitter, and Google make them look minuscule. And these organizations are now dictating what happens in elections, whether it be local elections, whether it be national elections, or whether it be elections for the European Parliament, which don't matter a damn anyway. I'm not contradicting myself at all. They don't matter. But it's the point worth making. Robinson never had a chance. A global corporation, as I'm going to repeat myself, on a scale previously unimaginable, was able to decide to delete his accounts. And I understand that he had hundreds of thousands of followers on his Twitter and Facebook accounts. So hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, not just the people who followed him, rightly or wrongly, but others who maybe didn't follow him, but might have come across one of his videos or one of his blogs or one of his posts. That was ended by Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And when Robinson says, I never had a chance from the get-go, I got 40,000 votes, but I had no chance really. Regardless of whether you like the guy or whether you despise him, you've got to acknowledge that he is absolutely right. These corporations now control what happens and what doesn't happen. And ergo, they control or can control the results of elections like the EU parliamentary election here in the UK. He never had a snowball's chance in hell because social media, where these days, sadly, most people seem to reside 24/7, if they're not on the fucking thing all the time, checking, has somebody liked my Twitter post? Or what about that thing I just put on Facebook? How many people have liked it? If they're not doing that, it's alongside them on the chair while they're watching telly and then they're checking it. Or it's alongside their bed and they're waking up in the night and they're checking it. So everybody's on there. It's full-scale domination. And they were able to say, Robinson is gone. So what about the Electoral Commission in the UK? Surely the UK's Electoral Commission would have an opinion on that. Surely the UK Electoral Commission would have to answer the question, well, Tommy Robinson paid his £5,000 to stand in the election. He was banned by these social media giants, not for breaking the law of the land, but for allegedly posting hateful content. So the election was skewed. The result must be null and void, surely, because he was starting from, he was handicapped, you could say, from the start. And that just pissed me off today, reading that in the Independent and in the Guardian. It's all a big laugh that Tommy's being laughed at. BKH tweets, if Tommy's supported by Zionists, why would Facebook ban him? That's fair enough. Galena tweets, Robinson is just a Mossad agent provocateur like Alex Jones. Underneath you find Bibi and the Mossad. That being said, US big tech and fascist book are also the Mossad-controlled oppositions. AU Kekovich tweets, why aren't governments banned from the social media for their violence, theft, kidnap, and murder? I suppose I could scroll back up there, but I can't really see what's going on. But there's an awful lot of comments coming in there. I can see a lot of people commenting. Sugspiracy says a good point there, Richie. And a number of other people are disagreeing with me. Twisted Hippie says, do companies like Facebook have any responsibility to free speech? Does McDonald's or does Tesco? Bizzer14 Life tweets, banning Tommy serves its purpose. Look at his following. These are all good points as well. Like I said, this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion. I don't have any time for the man. I've said it 1,000 times in my program. But isn't it a very serious point worth exploring further, that a group of social media companies can delete a guy? Maybe they did it before he announced he was going to run for the EU Parliament. Maybe. That's fair enough. But they can delete the guy, hampering him and handicapping him then in the race. And these are organizations that are not governed by the rules of elections at all. There's another thing that you don't consider. When I worked in radio for years in Ireland, we were bound by very strict rules and regulations when it came to covering election races, again, at all levels. It didn't matter whether it was county council elections, city council elections, or national elections. We were bound by very strict criteria. And the criteria was everybody had to get the same amount of time on our radio programs. Now, you might laugh at that, but that's true. When I was producing the mid-morning talk show at WLR-FM in Waterford in 2002, I was under an enormous amount of pressure to make sure that independent candidates got as much time right across our programs as Fianna Fáil did, as Fine Gael did, as Sinn Féin did, as the Irish Labour Party did, and as the Progressive Democrats back then did. We were at the risk of serious fines, heavy fines, massive fines, if we didn't make sure that everybody got the same amount of time. It's the same in the UK. I know some of you will say the BBC has given more time to Farage. I know some of you will say the BBC has given more time to Remain candidates. But by and large, in the UK media, they do give as much time to the parties right across the board. They give equal time as best as they can. But Facebook doesn't have to do that. And Twitter doesn't have to do that. And they've got sophisticated algorithms. They've got sophisticated algorithms that can help promote a certain point of view, that can promote Remain maybe, or promote a certain political party. Who's watching them? So it's this global behemoth that's operating all over the world. It's operating in every country in the world, but is yet is not bound by the electoral rules of the countries in which it operates in. So again, I come back to the point. This is why I don't do too many live streams, because I repeat myself 1,000 times. I come back again. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram have surely breached Electoral Commission rules in this country by wiping out the social media accounts of Carl Benjamin and of Tommy Robinson, and basically cutting off one of their legs before even the campaigning began. And that's all I'm saying. Somebody called I Frag Myself a Lot has typed gay, gay, gay about 50 times. Good for you. Hi to Byron Raver. Good result for the SNP in Scotland. Michael tweets, UK media gives candidates the airtime, but then talk across them or ask leading questions. They then have a pundit on to explain it all for us. That's exactly right. Are they regulated, these companies? No, they're not regulated. This is the thing, you see. And I just want to have that discussion in future programs. Hi to Noons Flower. Good morning. Hi to the Janzala. Hi to Jim. And you know, Jim, you make a very good point. All we heard about is Russians interfering with the EU elections and the elections in America. You're absolutely right. Where's the discussion about the interference in elections by companies like Facebook, companies like Twitter, companies like Google? And that's what you have to... Sean Mack tweets, what happened to Robinson happened to Gemma O'Doherty and to Ben Gilroy in Ireland. Locked out of radio debates, etc. Then laughed at when the results came out. Voting my arse, it will change nothing. Absolutely right. Of course. And look, we're back to where we began on this live stream. We're back to where we began. EU parliamentarians, the 751 of them, they don't have any power. They're window dressers to give you the illusion of democracy. The European Union is a fascist dictatorship. We live in a constitutional monarchy, not a democracy. And if you go to Wikipedia and get the definition of constitutional monarchy, it's bollocks. It makes it sound all very benign, like the royal family, you know, just ceremonial roles and figureheads, heads of state and all that. The way Ireland has a president, no, it's not. They play a huge role in the running of things and in the say in terms of how things go and how things get done. That's all I wanted to say really this morning. The Rich Runo says, twisted hippie there. The Moog says, in reality, we live in an anarcho-tyranny. Hi to William Gibson as well. And to anybody I didn't say hi to, I'm sorry about that. When I was looking at my bullet points, I couldn't see the live chat. So there you go. I'm going to do one, as we say here in Manchester. The 51 Project says it's a big club and you and me are not in the big club. That was George Carlin, as far as I remember. Very good. That's right. Corporatocracy. Somebody's asked me about George Soros. We've covered Soros a lot and the Open Society. Soros, a very dangerous character. I've done a YouTube video some months or even some years ago where I juxtaposed the film Casino with De Niro, Scorsese, and put it into context in terms of how it's a great analogy of how the power structure in global governance works. Look that up, Richie. Look up Richie Allen Casino on YouTube. It's really interesting. I use some clips from the film Casino, and I talk about Rothschild Zionism, the elite banking heads, the likes of George Soros. George Soros is a capo regime for the Rothschild banking dynasty. That's what he is. And I've talked about that a million times. That might get this video not deleted, but it might get it hidden now. So I don't know. Right, I'm going to love you and leave you. Hi to Steve David from New Zealand. How are you, Steve? Hi to Shirley. Graham Booth. Follow Graham Booth on Twitter because the trigger warning guys, Graham Booth and Hayden Hewitt, they do a lot of live streaming on triggerwarning.tv and on YouTube. And they've got a different perspective quite often, sometimes a similar perspective, but quite often a different perspective than mine on these issues. It's very important that you listen to other points of view. It really is. Hi to Niall Condren from Ireland. How you doing, Niall? Dia Guita Cara. Hope you're well. It's not a bank holiday in Ireland, of course, today. It's a full day. So I will be watching live championship playoff football this afternoon. Come on, you Rams. Come on, you Rams. My old pal Gareth Ike and his brother Jamie are massive fans of Derby County. And as far as I know, Gareth will be at Wembley today shouting on the Rams. So up the Rams, up the Rams. So it's a bank holiday, so there won't be a Richie Allen live radio show today, but back tomorrow with 2 guests as usual, live from 5 o'clock. And for the rest of the week, that's tomorrow, Tuesday. Until then, have a great bank holiday. The sun is shining here. It's coming through the conservatory. It's lovely, lovely and warm here, lovely and bright. I'm going to go outside for a bit as well. Mike says, what do you think of David Icke? I'm in Salford too. What have I always said about David Icke? What do you need me to talk about David Icke for? I have a lot of time for the work of David Icke, of course. Right, see you tomorrow, Tuesday. Until then, bye now. Thanks for listening to this. Share it when it comes up on social media later on. Bye. Bye now.